Welcome to my Mount Rushmore wrestling picks, my top four wrestlers of all time. According to mathematics, I'll explain in another video someday how I formed this latest rankings of mine. I've did top 10 wrestling videos before on my other channel, original channel. Not sure if I did one on this specific channel, but I'm doing one now. So let's get right into it. Number 4, The Undertaker. Now, what can you say? He is perhaps the greatest fake fighter at WrestleMania of all time. I know I just triggered some wrestling fans saying that word fake, which would have triggered myself in 2016 too, but yeah, I kind of like using it now because I know it. Yeah. I don't take life seriously in general, so why on earth would I take fake fighting seriously? But number 4 is The Undertaker. Undertaker, in wrestling terms, it would be difficult for someone to make a top 10 wrestling list without including The Undertaker. He's been in a lot of different eras of wrestling, from the latter stage of the golden age of wrestling with Hulk Hogan. He was one of the main stars of the new generation, next generation, whatever you want to call it. He was a big part of the Attitude Era. He was one of the good things about the eras that came after that. He was what made the latter WrestleManias, must see. Will the Undertaker get beat this year or not? So it was good stuff for a long period of time. Number 3 on my list is Hulk Hogan, another guy. In fact, everybody on this list of mine, you could say, deserves a spot in everybody's top 10, in my humble opinion. Hulk Hogan is perhaps the greatest icon ever in wrestling. You know, if you were to see, if a casual, very casual wrestling fan that's not really watched much wrestling in their life, if they were to go in a supermarket, if they would, you're not going to walk past someone like Hulk. You're going to walk past Hulk Hogan and think, I'm sure that's Hulk Hogan. I'm sure it's a wrestling star. Yeah, that's Hulk Hogan. He's got that distinctive wrestling look, unlike Kevin Owens. Likes of Kevin Owens and The Miz, you would just kind of, if you were very casual, you just walk past him and think, oh, it's just a regular dude. Hulk Hogan was a star of wrestling when wrestling was full of characters. Wrestlers was full of wrestlers that looked like wrestlers, and he was at the top of the list for a long period of time. And he's had many memorable WrestleMania moments with The Rock, The Ultimate Warrior, Andre the Giant. Um, you know, helping Eugene that one time. That was a fun WrestleMania moment at WrestleMania 21. So yeah, Hulk Hogan. You could argue he should be number 1. Number 2 and 1 on my list, according to my mathematics, is, well, number 2 is Shawn Michaels. I've not rehearsed this video at all, by the way. Shawn Michaels, I was privileged enough to see Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania taking on The Undertaker at number 25. It still gets talked about today, that match, as one of the greatest wrestling matches ever. And not being biased because I was there, it was one of the greatest matches ever, perhaps the greatest. Ladder match with Razor Ramon. He was the guy in the next generation. It was between him and Bret Hart. He was being involved with very memorable wrestling moments at Survivor Series 1997 for one. He was in the first Hell in a Cell match with The Undertaker at In Your House 18. And he was called Mr. WrestleMania for a number of years. He had an incredible match with Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 21. Anyway, I'm seeing the countdown here. It's nearly at 5 minutes, and I want to wrap this video up. So my number 1 of all time, he's been the number 1 of all the lists I've did for top 10 wrestlers, Stone Cold Steve Austin. He is the greatest professional wrestler, sports entertainment, sports entertainer, fake fire of all time. Is Stone Cold Steve Austin, the greatest ever, in my humble opinion. And the mathematics, I mean, he's got like 300 plus. He's way ahead of everybody else on this mathematical list that includes over 100 wrestlers. See, what I've been doing is jotting down each show I've watched on the network since having it 3 years ago, over 3 years ago, just to remember which shows I have and haven't watched. And for fun, I've been given the show's ratings. I've been given, and on top of that, I've been writing which wrestler I believe has stole the show, so to speak. And Austin is just way ahead of the rest. And the mathematics in this case is right. He is my favourite of all time. I was a huge Stone Cold Steve Austin mark. Big time mark during WrestleMania 17 when he went up against The Rock. I was the greatest WrestleMania of all time, and the greatest WrestleMania main event of all time, The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, like many wrestlers, I feel he has damaged his legacy a little bit in recent years. I don't know why he had to have a match against Kevin Owens. It has to be one of the worst WrestleMania matches. Anyways, it wasn't good, and this is for my ex, like Stone Cold Steve Austin mark. Is it just could have had a great match with CM Punk 10 years earlier, or Brock Lesnar. Anyways, so yeah, that's my Mount Rushmore, you can call it, my top 4 wrestlers of all time, according to maths, and it is pretty accurate. Number 4, The Undertaker. 3, Hulk Hogan. 2, Shawn Michaels. And number 1, Stone Cold Steve Austin. The greatest ever. Still.